Okay, Martin, before we jump into all of the things today, can you tell us about our module of the week, which is Font Your Face?
Thanks, John. Have you ever wanted to add and manage web fonts for your Drupal site directly within the admin interface? There's a module for that. It's called Font Your Face, and it was created in May 2010 by Scott Raynon, but the most recent release was by Enrique Mendez of CINT. It has 7.x-2.8 and 4.0.0 versions available, the latter of which supports Drupal 9.4 and 10. It is actively maintained, has test coverage and security coverage, and there is some documentation, but it looks like it might be ready for a refresh. In terms of open issues, there are 48 open issues, 8 of which are bugs against the current branch, which is quite good considering the module is in use by 32,213 sites according to Drupal.org. The module provides an interface to browse fonts from Google, Adobe, Typekit, and more. It will show license restrictions for fonts where there are some considerations from a legal standpoint. And when you find a font you want to use, you just click Enable. You don't need to write any CSS or define a library. It's easy to mix and match fonts from different providers. It can even make it easier to include your own local fonts. The module also includes submodules for the different font providers, so you enable the submodules based on where you want to use fonts from. Then you can import the fonts for those providers, though you do need an API key to import fonts from Google. The module does also have an API, so you can write your own modules to integrate with other font providers or access the information about available fonts in other projects. So let's talk about Font Your Face.
It's unnecessarily aggressive, but if you think about it, fonts are really just like right in your face all the time on the web.
I actually haven't used this module that much recently. I remember I used to use it all the time because it made integrating modules so much easier. But I think one of the concerns, over time has become with performance, pulling modules in from other domains. So most clients want to, they want a smaller set of, well, I should say, a more curated set of fonts, and they want them to be served from their own domain. That solves a lot of other issues as well with like CSP and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't used this personally in quite some time, but now that you've brought it up, I might use it on a project because I think one of the things that it might do is make it easy to switch back and forth and test a bunch of different things. And then once you kind of settle on what fonts you want to use, you can import them the way that you normally would now.
So admittedly, I've not used this module in forever. But I'm wondering, it sounds like, and what I remember from it, I think it does, but this kind of falls into that like, ecosystem of modules that's kind of like a supporter module, right? So like I think of like search API as like that type of module where you can kind of like install it and then install a sub module to connect to, a service that you're looking to bring in, right? And it just kind of makes that whole process a lot easier. Which I mean, I think is nice. I think it's nice to have modules like this in Drupal, and like I kind of appreciate what this module is doing because sometimes integrating with font services or bringing fonts into your website can be just kind of annoying. So it sounds like this is definitely simplifying it.
I was actually surprised to see the total number of installs. That seems kind of high for like kind of where the ecosystem is at. Um, I mean, it's a third of those installs seem to be, modern Drupal. So that's kind of interesting to see that it's popular in that
Oh
space.
man, that's funny because I was going to say like it would be interesting to see how many of those are Drupal 7 versus Drupal 10, and yep, you just did it
Yeah,
for me. There we
it's
go.
about one third to two thirds. Two thirds Drupal 7, pretty much,
Hmm.
and a couple Drupal 6s. Always feel bad for those folks.
Uh,
To your point, Nick, earlier about serving the fonts locally, I mean, one of the submodules is for local fonts. So
Oh,
the
really?
module could still be useful even for people who still want to serve the fonts locally, but don't want to go through, writing the CSS markup, defining a library, those things as well.
Fair enough.
Very useful. Well, Martin, thank you for bringing us another enlightening, in your face module of the week. If folks wanted to suggest a module or just get in touch to chat about modules or anything else for that matter, how would they go about doing that?
We're always happy to chat about modules in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as ManClue on all of the Drupal and social platforms.